Chapter 931. Olivia didn't fail to notice the fear and unease in Connor's eyes. What had she done? Why would her son look at her with those emotions? I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Olivia hugged Connor and apologized to him repeatedly. Connor didn't know what to do. Why did you come here? My baby, Mom is so sorry. I'm sorry for coming so late. Mom, Connor thought he heard wrong. Did Olivia really address herself as his mother? My dear child, I was mistaken about some things. I only managed to find you again now. It's all my fault. Olivia hugged Connor tightly as tears rolled down her chin and fell on his neck. The hug was the best solace for both of them at that moment. Ethan had someone bring them a first aid kit. Liv, we should tend to his wounds first. Olivia let go of Connor and looked at his injuries with a pained expression. It must hurt, right? It doesn't hurt. Connor stared at Olivia with a dreamy look, like she would disappear before him if he blinked. As Olivia was disinfecting and applying ointment on Connor's wounds, Connor looked at Ethan and asked, Dad, is Mom real? Ethan tapped him on the nose lightly. Silly boy, of course, she's real. Connor remained still even after he heard that. He didn't make a sound even when Olivia was dressing his wounds. He was afraid that he might scare her away. Connor was as obedient as ever. There were times when he would act up in the past, but he was truly completely docile right now. It made Olivia feel bad for him. Are you hungry, Connor? Why don't I make some food for you? Okay. It had been so many years, but Olivia had never once cooked a meal for him. She felt guilty when she thought about that. She was such a failure of a mother. She felt immense remorse when she thought about the time she planned to jump off the cruise ship with Connor. Luckily, she didn't go through with it. Ethan brought the two of them back to his private room. He would sometimes come here to train with Connor. He had to be stricter with a boy, but it didn't mean he didn't love Connor. He loved him a lot. He was just thinking about his future. While Olivia was cooking in the kitchen, Connor took the chance to report his progress in the past few days. Ethan caressed Connor's cheek and asked, Do you hate me for this? You could have lived a comfortable life at home. Connor shook his head. I don't. I know you did it for my sake. When I become strong, I'll be able to protect Mom. Dad, have you made up with Mom yet? Connor's words made Ethan feel awkward. He didn't know what to say. Seems like you haven't. Connor sighed. With an unreliable dad like you, when will I ever get my mom back? Ethan patted him on the head. Son, no matter what happens between me and your mom, the three of us will always be a family. Nothing in this world can separate us. I'll always love you, and so will your mom. This will never change. Does Mom really love me? Didn't you say she'll love my brother and sister more when she finds them? She'll hate the child raised by the enemy, right? Connor was puzzled. Who told you I would hate you? I can't love you enough. Olivia crouched and hugged him from behind. You and your siblings are all precious to me. Chapter 932. Olivia realized that Connor was very sensitive. He was very insecure because he feared losing his mother after finally getting to meet her again. Olivia comforted him patiently. She told him repeatedly how much she loved her. She even made him some delicious food. Connor ate a lot. He didn't stop even when he was completely stuffed. Ethan had to take away his cutlery to make him stop. Connor knew he wouldn't get to eat Olivia's cooking every day. Come here, Connor. Olivia sat down on the windowsill and beckoned at Connor. He went to her obediently, and she pulled him into her embrace. They could see a great view from the window. Connor finally noticed a different side to the training grounds from a different angle. It was probably because his mother was with him. Olivia's lips curved into a smile. I was the one who came up with your name. You were born with all the love I had to give. You must have loved Dad a lot back then. Yeah, I loved him a lot. Olivia didn't lie to him. No matter what happens between me and him, you're still the baby I carried for 7 months. Your father took you away from me under some false pretenses. He split us up and hid your existence from me. That was why I wasn't part of your life for such a long time. But I thought about you every single day. On those countless days and nights, I was always thinking about you and missing you. I love you more than anyone in the world. Connor's mood improved immensely. Mom, I love you too. I love you very, very much. Good boy. Olivia rested her chin on his forehead. I can't interfere in any of the decisions your father made. You have to be careful while you're here. Call for help if you're in danger. You're just a kid. Your foremost priority is keeping yourself safe. Everything else is secondary to that. Don't worry, Mom. Dad has arranged for people to keep me safe. There were several times when I was in danger and they saved me. Dad says a man has to be strong. I have to hold out for as long as I can. I shouldn't cry so easily. Don't listen to his nonsense. The most important thing a kid needs to do is to be happy and healthy every day. Cry or laugh if you need to. That's the God-given right of every child. Your father is just mentally sick. He didn't have a childhood, so he doesn't want one for you either. You shouldn't follow his example. Ethan wanted to eavesdrop on their intimate conversation, but Olivia saying he was mentally ill was the first thing he heard. He rubbed his nose awkwardly. Connor smiled. There was a dimple on his left cheek. He finally seemed like a young boy again. Olivia was confused. She didn't have dimples, and neither did Ethan. She had met everyone else in the Miller family. None of them had dimples. But all of her children had a dimple on the left cheek. Maybe this was something they inherited from her side of the family. It was a pity that all the leads had gone cold. Penny passed away 2 years ago, and she didn't recall any useful information before her death. Look at you. You're so handsome when you smile, like a prince. Did your father tell you not to smile? Connor nodded. How did you know that, Mom? Dad said I shouldn't wear my heart on my sleeve. We don't want people to know what we're thinking. Olivia grunted. I knew it. I knew he was the one who told you that. Chapter 933. Connor enjoyed hearing Olivia criticizing Ethan. She was the person who understood him the most. With Marina, she would only teach him how to cozy up to Ethan so that he would stay with them. But if Dad is so bad, why did you fall in love with him? Olivia said huffily, it was because I was stupid. Son, do you know how many people wanted to date me? As many as the fish in the ocean. I was just blinded by his looks. But if you had married someone else, I wouldn't have been born, neither would my brother and sister, Connor said with disappointment. Olivia immediately changed her tune. Your dad used to be a decent person. He was good to me once. So, when I was pregnant with you, I was very happy every day. I waited for your arrival with joy and anticipation. What about now? Dad still treats you well. I know Dad has done a lot of things for the sake of your safety, Mom. Things are different now. I can only promise you that I'll always love you no matter what happens. Connor asked softly, Mom, can you give Dad some of your love too? He's really sad. There are a lot of other people in this world who can love him. He doesn't really need it from me. But Mom, to Dad is like water to fish. A fish would die without water. Connor nestled into Olivia's embrace obediently. He picked it up so quickly and was able to become an adorable kid in such a short amount of time. I love Mom, but I love Dad too. I'd love it even more if both of you got together. Other children's parents are together. Mom, didn't you say you love me? You're still single anyway. Can't you just forgive what Dad did to you for my sake? I think my siblings would want the same. They would want you two to stay together. Connor had grown up since Olivia last saw him. He was able to voice his opinions clearly this time. Unlike her two other children, even if they had such thoughts, they couldn't express them. Olivia didn't know what answer she could give that wouldn't hurt Connor. He was just a kid, and his world was simple and pure. He wouldn't understand everything that had happened between Ethan and herself. Mom, if you're afraid that he might hurt you again, I'll keep an eye on him. I won't give Dad the chance to really realize his mistakes. Please forgive him, Mom. Olivia had the urge to relent and give him what he wanted. It was the first request that Connor, the son she felt very guilty toward, had for her. Mom, I don't want anything else. I just want you and Dad to be together. You can come to my parent-teacher meeting and parent-children's activities at school with him in the future. I'll be good. Please, Mom, this is all I want. Connor started to cry in her arms. He seemed to understand that it was his only chance. If he couldn't get Olivia to stay, she would be gone soon. Olivia patted him on the head lovingly. She could see her past self in him. In the past, she had gone home happily after school one day when she saw Chris there. He was there to take Chloe away. Suitcase in hand, Chloe walked up to her and told her to be good and obey Jeff because she was going away. When Olivia learned that Chloe was going away, she clung to Chloe's leg and begged her to stay. Chapter 934. Mom, I'll be good. I won't make you angry ever again. Please don't go. Please stay with me. Olivia fell to the ground after Chloe pulled her away. Even then, she chased after her with a limp. She ran after the car and begged for Chloe to return to her. There was only one thought in her mind. Even though Chloe usually treated her with indifference, she would have a mother as long as Chloe was there. If Chloe left, she wouldn't have a mother anymore. Even if Chloe remained indifferent, Olivia would be happy if she could see her every day. After Chloe left, Olivia hoped for her return every single day. Every day, she would watch other children enviously. They had their mothers to bring them home, mothers who brought them lunch and took part in parent-children activities. She would also envy the children with mothers who brought them to theme parks. And those with mothers to carry them in their arms when they fell over. She knew how sad it was to grow up without a mother. She once swore to give her children a perfect family. As things were, she was no different from Chloe. She was about to leave her child and give him an imperfect childhood. Connor, I'm sorry. Olivia hugged him tightly but didn't know how to answer his questions. She could only apologize over and over again. Mom, I don't want your apology. I just want you with me. You say you didn't know I existed in the past, but now you know. Are you still going to leave me? Connor was indeed Ethan's son. He was very skilled at psychological manipulation. In such a short amount of time, he was able to estimate his importance to Olivia. He was also able to grasp her weakness. So, he used the childish tantrum that kids his age would normally have as a bid to get her to stay. This way, even if Olivia might be unhappy with his actions, she could not turn him down. No parent would be able to resist their child throwing a tantrum, especially if it was a child they felt guilty toward and wanted to try their best to make up to. But Connor didn't want anything. He just wanted Olivia to stay. Mom, I love you so much. You love me too, and there's my brother and sister too. I've never had a complete family from the start. Do you want them to go without their father as they grow up? They would wonder every day what it'd be like to have a father. They would envy the families of other people. Mom, people say that a complete childhood will make your life better, but an incomplete one will cause you to be traumatized forever. Olivia was rendered speechless. She didn't expect Connor to say something like that. He was still so young. Did your father tell you to say that? No, Dad never taught me anything like that. He only told me that a man has to be strong and never surrender. And that I'll be able to protect you when I grow up. Dad has never spoken ill of you, Mom. He always tells me my mother is the best woman in the world. He's the one at fault. He's the one who let you down. If he could rewind time, he'd give you all the love he had. My teacher told me we should all learn from our mistakes and grow. People should be given the chance to turn over a new leaf. Mom, please give Dad another chance and see how he does. If he has really changed for the better, you should forgive his past stupidity. Let's be together as a family, okay? Olivia was rendered speechless by Connor's speech. Who did he inherit this talent of speech from? Connor nuzzled himself in her arms and said, Dad and I love you a lot, Mom. Chapter 935. Olivia patted Connor on the head lovingly. My dear boy, I understand how you feel, but we don't always get what we want. It's not wrong of you to want your family to be together. But have you ever considered whether Mom and Dad would be happy together? Connor looked at her with teary eyes. It was clear he hadn't thought about that. Olivia patiently explained, I felt the same way as a child. I wanted my family to be together too. Back then, your grandmother didn't love your grandfather at all. She treated me and your grandfather with indifference every day. Do you know what happens when a person is unhappy every day? She would become depressed and angry. She would spread negative emotions to everyone around her. Have you ever had a pet bird? No, but I have a cat. Dad gave it to me. He said that you love cats. Birds and cats are different. A cat can run around the house freely, but a bird is trapped inside a cage. It can only look at the sky from within the cage. The sky is just beyond the cage, but the bird can never reach it. If you love the bird and feed it the best food every day, do you think it'll be happy? Mom, are you trying to say that you're the bird and Dad's the cage? Olivia nodded. That's right. Maybe this makes me a selfish person. Connor, I used to be a young woman who was looking forward to marriage. I was hopeful for the future. I was happy that we were able to create a happy family. I was looking forward to bringing you into the world and into a happy family. But there are too many things in this world that we can't control. I didn't want things to come to this point, but this is where we are now, and we don't have a choice. What I can do is continue to love you. I'll try my best to make it up to you for the rest of my life. But I'll never be able to go back to your father. You're a good kid. You should understand my decision, right? I have my own path to walk. Connor stared at Olivia for a good while before nodding. I understand, Mom. I support your decision. He was just a kid. He didn't know about everything that had happened between Ethan and Olivia. But there was one thing he knew. He loved his mother and wanted her to be happy. If that makes you happy, I'll be okay with it. I'm just afraid that you won't want me anymore. Silly boy, I told you that you're the same as your siblings. You're all precious to me. I love you a lot too. I'll be visiting you more in the future. Olivia noticed the necklace around Connor's neck. She pulled it out to look at it. It was the emerald necklace. I designed this for you personally. It carries the hope I have for you. I hope you can be happy every day and grow up healthily. Connor stuck his hand out. Mom, you have to keep your promise. You have to come visit me again. Olivia made a pinky promise to him with a smile on her face. All right, I promise. Let's live together after you grow up a little bit more, okay? You need to grow up into a man soon so that I don't have to worry so much. All right, Mom, I got it. You're my perfect little baby. Olivia patted him on the back and started to tell him about the things that happened when he was younger while holding him in her arms. Do you still remember the cherry blossoms on the island? Why don't I bring you there and show you the next time they bloom? It's a promise, Mom. I'll hold you to it. Chapter 936. Olivia finally managed to convince Connor to see things her way. He was still young and wasn't as stubborn as Ethan. All his thoughts were centered around Olivia. He might look like Ethan, but his personality resembled Olivia's. He was considerate. People like them usually had it harder. They would always put other people before themselves and never consider their own interests. That night, Connor fell asleep in Olivia's arms. His arms grabbed onto her sleeves uneasily. Olivia felt another pang in her heart when she looked at the wounds on his face. She knew there would be more injuries to come. Connor's path was one riddled with pain and suffering. Despite that, she would still be leaving him. Olivia felt terrible and sad. But she knew that Ethan and Connor wouldn't be able to protect her forever if she didn't make any changes. She would be dead if she ever slipped up. She only had one life, so all she could do was grow stronger. Or else people like Crystal could slap her without any consequences. She would be nothing without Ethan's authority. Moreover, Ethan's identity had been leaked. It was no longer safe for her to stay with him. Olivia had learned her lesson from her failed marriage. She had to plan for her and her kids' future. Ethan snuck into the room after Connor was sound asleep. Olivia immediately tensed up when his chest was pressed against her back. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Ethan wrapped his hands around her waist and said softly, "Don't be alarmed. I'm just going to sleep with my arms around you." Olivia immediately doubted his words. She felt like he was plotting something. But Ethan didn't do anything to her. He just had his arms around her waist without making another move. "Are you planning to leave tomorrow?" "Yeah," Olivia replied softly. "I knew I couldn't keep you here." Ethan sighed and added, "I have to stay here for a little longer to recover. I won't be seeing you off tomorrow. I've already made arrangements for you to go to the island." "All right, thanks. Now sleep," Olivia said in a stiff and distant tone. There were no farewells or sorrows. It was like two friends who met up and were going their separate ways. Olivia slept very well that night with Connor in her arms. She had thought about it a few times. It would be great if they were just normal people. She could stay with her children if that were the case. Olivia woke up from the dreamless sleep very quickly. She left early in the morning before the sun was even up. The sun came out later during winter. There was a gap between the curtains, and Olivia could see that the sky was still dark. Connor was sleeping very soundly in her arms. Even Ethan had a good night's sleep. The father and son leaned in close to Olivia on both sides. Neither of them wanted her to leave. Olivia got out of bed gently, trying her best not to alert them. But she didn't know that both of them woke up the moment she left their side. Neither of them opened their eyes. They didn't say anything either. Olivia freshened up briefly. Then, she lingered before Connor. The light in the room was dim. She could barely make out his face and could only see the outlines of it. A single drop of warm liquid fell on the back of Connor's hand. He knew it was Olivia's tears. Chapter 937. Olivia planted a kiss on Connor's forehead before she left. Ethan and Connor opened their eyes in unison when they heard the door close. There were tears in Connor's eyes. "Dad, we really can't get her to stay." "I'm sorry," Ethan said with a tender look in his eyes. As soon as Olivia walked out of the building, she was faced with icy winds that felt like cold blades on her face. It made her face sting a little. As Ethan said, everything had been arranged. "Mrs. Miller, the helicopter is ready for you. You can set off whenever you like." "Thanks. The helipad is a distance away. You'll have to walk over there." "It's okay." Olivia waved her hand. She was wearing a down jacket and buried her entire face under a hat. She could sense someone watching her, but she dared not look back. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to leave if she looked back. She kept telling herself not to look back and move forward. Ethan carried Connor in his arms and hid behind the curtains. Tears were streaming down Connor's face. He reached out like he was trying to grab Olivia's sleeve. "Dad, I don't want Mom to leave." "Will she leave me for good?" "She'll never do that. She loves you so much." "Why would she leave you for good?" "She's just leaving us for a while." Connor sobbed and asked, "Won't you miss her, Dad?" "Of course, I will. I'll miss her like crazy. I have the urge to imprison her and keep her by my side forever, but..." Ethan sighed deeply. "I've already made that mistake once. I can't do it again. Your mother had a bright future ahead of her. By forcing her to stay by my side, I took away her dream, happiness, and future. She was a caged bird, but I eventually removed the cage and allowed her to soar freely. Aren't you afraid she might fall for someone else and start a new family with them?" "What would you do then?" Ethan had thought about that possibility. But he had pretended to be Logan and stayed with her for so long. They even experienced life and death situations together. He was with her during her weakest hours, but she still didn't fall for him. Ethan was sure Olivia wouldn't fall in love with someone else. "You and your siblings link me and your mother together. As long as you three are here, we'll see her again, no matter where she goes." Watching as Olivia disappeared into the snow, Connor thought about the years he spent without his mother. The yearning that he had kept bottled up exploded. "Dad, I want to say goodbye to her." It was just an excuse for him to talk to Olivia, look at her, and hear her voice one more time. Connor ran like the wind. He yelled as he ran, "Mom! Wait for me, Mom!" The howling winds drowned his voice out. The heavy snow blinded him, and he couldn't see where Olivia was. He ran a few more steps before falling onto the snow, which quickly covered him up. "Mom!" Olivia was about to step onto the helicopter when she suddenly heard a voice. She looked back but only saw the snowy ground. There was no one there. She figured she was hearing things because she was already missing Connor. She wiped her tears and got on the helicopter. Chapter 938. "Don't go, Mom. Wait for me." It had been snowing the entire night, and the ground was covered in thick snow. Connor got out of the snow with great effort, but the helicopter door was already closed, and the rotors started spinning. Connor ran forward as fast as he could. Even though he made a promise to Olivia last night, he still lost control when it came time to part ways. He was running toward his mother instinctively. He was just a kid who had been without his mother for a long part of his life. His face was filled with longing for Olivia. Mom, don't go. I finally got to see you. Please stay, Mom. Connor fell over again with tears streaming down his cheeks while he called out to Olivia. The winds were too strong, and the rotors were loud. Olivia couldn't hear his voice at all. Mom, I miss you. I've been waiting for you for so long. Please stay with me. I'll be good. I'll listen to whatever you say. I was lying. I don't want you to go. I want to see you every day. I don't want to train anymore. I don't want to be a young sir. I just want to be your son. Mom, please look at me one more time. Connor slowly picked himself up, but he slumped to the ground again. He was bawling his eyes out. His instructor had trained him for so long. He had always been strong. No matter how hard or tiring training was, he was able to hold out. This was the first time his instructor saw Connor lose control of his emotions. But to be fair, Connor was not even 5 years old. It was normal for him to act out occasionally. Dear boy, stop crying. The helicopter had already flown off, taking Olivia away from them. Along with her went all of Connor's yearning. Ethan picked Connor up from the snow and swept the snow off of him. Then, he took off his jacket and wrapped it around Connor. The instructor saluted Ethan. Ethan nodded at him and said, Connor will be taking a break for a couple of days. Yes, sir. Connor buried his face in Ethan's chest and cried until he could barely catch his breath. Dad, I'm not as strong as I thought I was. I don't want anything else. I just want Mom to come back. I want to be a regular child. All right, don't cry. You're a good boy. I don't want to be a good boy. I want to be a bad boy. Only bad boys get pampered. Ethan didn't expect Connor to react so strongly. He just wanted Olivia to know where Connor was. He failed to take into account the fact that Connor wasn't a 2-year-old baby anymore. At his age, Connor understood what was going on and was better aware of his feelings and emotions. I'm sorry. He carried Connor in his arms and began to walk back to his room. Connor was covered snugly in his jacket, but Ethan was exposed to the icy winds. Connor had spent more time with Ethan since he was younger, but Ethan had been going after Olivia for the last 2 years. So, the child didn't get to see his father that much either. Connor's crying subsided when he saw Ethan being covered in snow. He understood that he wasn't the only person feeling sad. Ethan was very sad as well. He sobbed quietly. Ethan looked straight into his eyes and said, I promise that I'll bring your mother back here someday, okay? Connor's nose was red from all the crying. He looked sad but also adorable at the same time. Okay, you can't go back on your word. It's a promise. Chapter 939. Olivia saw Ethan carrying Connor in his arms while she was on the helicopter. She felt a pang in her heart. She was such a bad mother. They finally got to see each other again, but she left him again. She knew Connor must be devastated. She leaned on the window, and her tears never stopped flowing. Ultimately, she watched as the father and son walked away into the snow, and she lost sight of them. She didn't know when she would see her son again after that day. The helicopter flew toward the island. It took quite some time for Olivia to recover from the depression she felt from parting with her son. She saw Everly, Alicia, and Zach playing around before the helicopter landed. Even though she couldn't hear their voices, she could feel that they were having a lot of fun. Everly stopped the game when she heard the sound of the helicopter approaching. She brought the children over to welcome Olivia. They hadn't seen each other for a week. Everly seemed to be in a better mood, probably because she had left Henry. Her complexion had visibly improved. She wasn't as pale as before. Liv, Mom. The 2 children circled Olivia like little kittens. Olivia was supposed to feel happy as she was reunited with her 2 children, but looking at their faces, she was reminded of Connor. Connor was suffering in their stead. She felt terrible when she thought about that. What's wrong? Are you unhappy? Did Ethan bully you again? Everly rolled up her sleeves. She was ready to reprimand Ethan for Olivia. It's not that. It's a long story. I'll tell you later. Olivia suppressed her negative emotions. She had already made a huge mistake. She couldn't let these 2 kids down too. Were the 2 of you good when you were with Aunt Eve? Yes. The two children were like cute little birds when they opened their mouths. They were very adorable. Everly smiled. Stop calling me Aunt. I don't care. They're my godson and goddaughter now. They need to call me Godmother from now on. Sure, I don't mind. I'm more than delighted to have another person care for them so much. Eve, I'm starving. I knew you were coming today, so I've already asked the kitchen to prepare food for you. Ethan might be a scumbag, but he treats you well. This island has everything. I thought the cherry blossom island he prepared for Marina was great. But that's nothing compared to this island. I think he was planning to spend the rest of his days with you on this island. Olivia was calm. So, what food have they prepared? Seeing that Olivia didn't want to talk about Ethan, Everly quickly changed the subject. You'll know when you see it. All right, children, follow your godmother. Everly acted like she was a kindergarten teacher. She was full of joy. There were plenty of cameras on the island. Henry would look at the footage several times each day. He was relieved to see her having a good time with the children. He said to Ethan, "Your suggestion is great. She seems to be in a much better state. Women tend to do better when they leave the men who cause them pain." His words rendered Henry speechless. He glared at Ethan and retorted, "Are you talking about Olivia?" Ethan wasn't offended by his remark. He smiled and said, "Olivia's life will get better. It's a pity that I only understand this now. Stop acting like you're a saint. If you really mean what you say, you should cut her loose, not keep her right under your nose." Chapter 940. Ethan looked at Henry, who was as stubborn as he used to be. He didn't make fun of his naivete. He was still new to being in love. He would only mature after going through some hardships. These experiences weren't something Henry would just listen to if someone else told him. He had to experience them himself. Ethan didn't mock his arrogance because karma was fair to all. Henry would eventually experience what he had coming. Besides, Ethan already sensed that Henry treated Everly differently. She clearly wasn't just another lover to him like he claimed. It was fine. Love would eventually punish him for his lies. As he was talking, Henry looked at the video footage again. In the video, Everly was sitting on the beach and looking at the sea. She looked more emotionally stable than before. It seemed like Ethan's suggestion was right. She needed her friend and those children to heal her. There's still a lot of trouble back at home. I'll let her stay on the island for 3 more months before bringing her home. Henry was angered by Everly's miscarriage. He had done some reckless things for her sake. His arranged marriage partner was still in the ICU. The woman came from an affluent family too. Her family thought Henry was making too big of a fuss for a lover. He even lost his moral high ground. The arranged marriage was called off, and the two families became enemies. Even Henry's grandfather was alerted. He, too, felt like Henry was overdoing it. He wanted to take the chance to get rid of Everly. That was why Henry agreed to Ethan's proposal. 3 months. Maybe you love her more than you realize, Ethan said with a smile. Such a huge incident would take the Cinder family way longer than 3 months to deal with. Even 3 years probably wouldn't be enough. I heard that you were extremely cruel to that woman. She's a total cripple now. She deserved it. Henry's voice was filled with ice-cold cruelty when he talked about that woman. So, do you plan to let Olivia live on the island for the rest of her life? I said it before. I'm giving her complete freedom. The Ethan that Henry used to know would never do that. Everly started to recover with Olivia's care and the treatment from the doctors on the island. Even if it would be hard for her to get pregnant in the future, the trauma of the miscarriage had become more manageable for her. Everly was an optimistic person, but Olivia often saw her sitting on a bench alone and spacing out while looking at the sea. "What's on your mind?" Olivia asked, sitting down beside her. "I'm thinking if I had accepted Ethan's offer to work at his company, I would never have met that bastard." "Eve, it's all in the past. Let's stop dwelling on it." Everly caressed her flat stomach and said, "I was even ready to be a single mother. Why was fate so cruel? Why was that option taken from me?" She wiped her tears and added, "It's fine as well. If the baby were born, my life would forever be intertwined with his. I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore." Olivia wrapped her arms around Everly gently. "Eve, We should look to the future. We'll find our own happiness. Everly scanned her surroundings. After she was sure no one else was around, she whispered, "When are we leaving?" Olivia put up 5 of her fingers. 5 more days. Yeah, my friend needs some more time to make preparations. Everly nodded. Okay, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth. She knew that Henry only sent her here to hide from trouble. She heard that the Cinder family had already taken notice of her. They wanted to get rid of all the women Henry had before he got married. That was why Henry agreed to send her to the island. He would bring her back after the incident blew over. She wouldn't be able to escape then. This was her only chance.